Hi dear students, you are welcome in this video. Dear students, we have started a series called History of English Literature, and if you are preparing for SET, NET or any competitive exam, this series is very important because in this series we are covering so many authors and poets and we reached to the 18th century. In this video we are going to talk about 18th century poet, or as we have started the revival, and we will talk about the revival poets. There are some minor poets in the revival period in 18th century, and here we have next poet. So let's start. Here we have hash 40 history of English literature, 18th century literature, minor poets of the revival, and we have William Collins. So very first we will talk about his life, then we will talk about his major works and what kind of poetry he composed, then we will talk about his famous odes, then we have some famous lines from the famous ode, and then we will discuss his place in the whole history of English literature. So here we have his life. He was born in Chichester, Sussex in 1721. He was the son of a hat maker and former mayor of the town. So from this position we can understand he belonged to a well-to-do family and he could get all the means which were necessary to grow up a talent in the family, and his family belonged to a well strata of the society. He was educated at Prebendal School, Winchester, and Magdalen College, Oxford, and he started writing from his school days, and he published a collection of Persian eclogues at university. Now he went to a very good schools in those days, or prestigious schools in those days, and colleges. For example, Oxford, Magdalen College was a very famous college in those days, and from his school days he started writing. And we have his Persian eclogues which he completed when he entered into the university education, or when he went to the university. There he completed this Persian eclogues. Then he chose a literary career after rejection of university fellowship and military service. He tried to get a scholarship from university or fellowship from university, but he could not get that scholarship or fellowship, and then there was option for him to go in the military service, but he did not want to go to the military service, and hence he chose literary career, and hence he started writing. In 1747 he published a collection of odes, but unfortunately that publication failed, and he could not get the fame he wanted, or even he could not get a penny from that publication, and later he sank into drunkenness. He started drinking alcohol, and it was resulted in his unstable mind, and after that he became insane. In 1754 he was confined to a madhouse in Chelsea, and later moved to his elder sister for care in Chichester, and he died in 1759. And after that all happened suddenly, and he had to admitted in a madhouse in Chelsea, and after that he went to his elder sister for care, and there he lived for many days, and there he could meet the literary giants of those days, and he could get some soothing experience at his elder sister. But in Chichester he died in 1759. Now let's talk about his major works or important works. Here before that, let me tell you that we have a Collins Memorial in Chichester which was beautifully carved in 1795. You can see the picture where Collins is reading a book, and he was carved very nicely, and it was his memorial. Now here we have his very important works. Very first Persian eclogues which he wrote in 1742. Later it was revised as Oriental eclogues in 1759. Number 2, we have verses humbly addressed to Sir Thomas Hanmer on his edition of Shakespeare's works, 1743. Next we have Odes on several descriptive and allegoric subjects, 1746. Number 4, Ode on the death of Thomson, 1749. And number 5, we have Ode on the popular superstitions of the Highlands, written in 1749 but published later. Now all these poems are very important. Basically his odes are very important because still these words are prescribed for syllabus, and William Collins is read for his romantic elements in the poetry, because he belonged to the revival, the age of revival. And in this period we find some poets which were very fine in this revival, gave new ways or new stratas to the poetry, or they have provided a very new avenues in the field of poetry. And in those poets we have William Collins. Here we have his some of the famous odes. Very first we have to simplicity, number 2 to fear, number 3 to the passions, and number 4 ode to evening, and the last we have a lyric, how sleep the brave. It was not a ode, but it's a lyric. Now he is famous as a lyric poet, and here we have his some of the famous odes. Very famous ode we have ode to evening, in which he describes the evening. And here we are going to discuss a few lines from this ode to evening. So I quote: "If aught to autumn stop or pastoral song may hope chaste you to soothe thy modest ear, like thy own solemn springs, thy springs and dying gales, O nymph reserved, while now the bright-haired sun sits in you western tent, whose cloudy skirts with breed ethereal overhang his wavy bed." I unquote. Now if you look at these lines are nothing but the description of evening. He uses different types of adjectives in these lines, and just he is carving a picture of beautiful evening, how a evening can be, or how an evening can be described. And we have very fine description, just he's comparing evening to different types of things. For example, he says chaste evening, it's soothing modest ear. Again we have solemn springs, thy springs and dying gales, these types of words. O nymph reserved, he is using in this description or in this poem ode to evening. It's a very fine poem. You can read the complete poem. You can go to the poetryfoundation.com, and there you find this poem has been given. Now dear students, let's understand his place in the history of English literature. Why William Collins is important, or why should we study William Collins? What are the basic things he has given in his poetry? And here we have a quotation from poetryfoundation.org, and I quote: "William Collins is regarded as one of the most skilled 18th century lyric poets, marking a transitional period in English literature. Collins' style is formally neoclassical but presages the themes of the Romantic period. His treatment of individual experience and descriptions of emotion influenced his peers as well as the next generation of writers." I unquote. Now if you look at this statement, you find that how he is important, or his place in the whole history of English literature. He is one of the most skilled poets of the 18th century, and he was on the stage of transition, means the poets after him, followed him, or poets before him, we find, or his contemporary, have a great influence of William Collins on their writing. And not only his peers, means contemporaries, but the generation of poets which came later or came after William Collins followed his poetry or followed his writing style, because his writing style presages, means it is included, we find the romantic elements and romantic themes. Now we have discussed the ode to evening, and in ode to evening we find how he is describing the nature, and what we find in the romantic poetry, the description of nature, and the same kind of themes or same kinds of elements we also have in William Collins. So this is the place of William Collins in the whole history of English literature, and this is all about William Collins. So dear students, I hope you understood the poet called William Collins. If you have any problem, any query, you can comment me below in the comment section. I will definitely reply to your comment. Till watch literature simply, and please subscribe this channel and share among your friends. Thank you very much.